This is Chapter 6. At Tier 3, KPI mastery stops being about dashboards, reports, and end-of-day autopsies, and starts being about something far less visible but far more powerful: time control. Most shops believe they have KPI problems: low close rate, inconsistent ARO, flat hours sold, discount creep, margins that don't behave the way they should. Advisors and owners stare at numbers at the end of the day, trying to reverse engineer what went wrong. But the truth is uncomfortable. KPIs don't usually fail at the moment a customer says no. They fail long before that, quietly, invisibly, while the shop feels busy. This is why so many shops look alive on the surface but struggle underneath. Cars are coming in, phones are ringing, advisors are talking nonstop, technicians are working. Everyone feels productive, and yet decisions stall, bays sit, follow-ups pile up, numbers miss targets by margins that don't make sense. That disconnect isn't caused by pricing. It isn't caused by customer quality. And it isn't caused by effort. It's caused by unmanaged time. At this level, time is not neutral. Time either builds belief or erodes it. Time either keeps decisions warm or lets them go cold. Time either preserves authority or quietly hands it away. When an inspection completes and nothing happens, the customer doesn't pause their thinking. They fill the silence. They assume stories. They drift emotionally away from the visit. And once that drift happens, every recommendation that follows has to fight uphill. By the time the advisor finally calls, the window is already narrowed. Attention is split. Defenses are higher. Delay sounds reasonable. The decision environment is no longer live. And then the shop blames the customer. At Tier 3, leaders stop doing that. They recognize that KPIs are lagging indicators of timing discipline. Close rate doesn't collapse suddenly. It decays when inspection review time stretches. ARO doesn't flatten randomly. It softens when customers view estimates without guidance. Hours sold don't stall because techs aren't good. They stall because approvals arrive late or not at all. The most dangerous KPI failure feels productive. It hides behind activity. It disguises itself as busyness. Advisors feel slammed. Phones keep ringing. But decisions aren't moving. That's the warning sign. This chapter exists to change how you see performance. Not by giving you more numbers to watch, but by teaching you how to command the flow that produces them. At Tier 3, mastery is not chasing metrics after the fact. Mastery is controlling the timing upstream so results become predictable downstream. You stop reacting to yesterday's numbers. You start controlling today's moments. Because if you don't control time, you don't control results. And once you see that clearly, KPI mastery stops being mysterious. That's where this chapter begins. Time is the KPI that controls every other KPI. At Tier 3, this statement is not philosophical. It is operational. Every number leaders obsess over, close rate, ARO, hours sold, effective labor rate, profit margin, moves after time has already done its work. By the time a KPI shows up on a report, the real decisions that shaped it are already over. Most shops misunderstand where performance is actually created. They think performance lives in persuasion. They think it lives in pricing. They think it lives in customer quality. But performance is created earlier, inside the timing between moments. When an inspection completes, the clock starts ticking whether you acknowledge it or not. The customer is still emotionally present. The vehicle is still mentally open. The visit still feels active. That window is where belief forms. And belief is what approvals rest on. If that window is protected, approvals feel natural. If that window is neglected, approvals feel forced. Time does not pause while you get to it. This is where capable advisors lose ground without realizing it. They don't do anything wrong. They just don't do anything yet. They let the inspection sit while they clear calls, handle counter traffic, or finish something else. They tell themselves they're being responsible. In reality, they are allowing decision heat to bleed out. Decision heat is fragile. It doesn't spike on its own. It has to be maintained. When minutes turn into long gaps, the customer's focus moves elsewhere. They go back to work. They start thinking about their day instead of their car. The inspection becomes background noise instead of a live issue. By the time the advisor reaches out, the customer is no longer deciding, they're defending their time. That's when delay phrases show up. I'll call you back. I need to think about it. Let me check with someone. Those aren't price objections. They're timing failures. This is why shops that look busy often underperform. Activity masks delay. Advisors feel slammed. But decisions aren't moving because the most important time window was missed. At Tier 3, time is treated with the same seriousness as money. You wouldn't let cash sit uncounted. You wouldn't let parts walk out undocumented. You don't let decisions sit unattended. Time controls whether value feels immediate or theoretical. Time controls whether proof feels relevant or stale. Time controls whether leadership is felt or questioned. When value is delivered quickly and clearly, customers believe you. When it's delayed, even with perfect information, doubt creeps in. Doubt is the enemy of every KPI. This is why KPI mastery doesn't start with spreadsheets. It starts with clock. The shops that win don't move faster by rushing. They move faster by eliminating dead space. They tighten the chain between inspection completion, advisor review, customer view, and decision. Time isn't just another metric. It's the system that moves all the others. And until you control it deliberately, every KPI will feel unpredictable. So here's the question that reveals whether you are actually mastering KPIs or just reacting to them. Where is time leaking in your process before the customer ever decides? That question matters because most KPI discussions start too late. Leaders look at close rate after the fact. They debate ARO once the RO is closed. They talk about hours sold when the day is already over. But by then, the damage or the success has already happened. Time leaks are subtle. They don't announce themselves. They hide inside normal behavior. The inspection completes, but no one reviews it for 20 minutes. The estimate is built, but the customer doesn't open it for an hour. The inspection is viewed, but the conversation doesn't happen until later. Each of those gaps feels small in isolation. Together, they drain momentum. When time leaks early, advisors try to compensate late. They rush explanations. They stack recommendations. They add urgency language. They push harder to recover what timing already lost. That pressure doesn't fix the leak, it exposes it. This is why so many shops feel like they're selling harder but closing less. The real question isn't whether you presented enough value, it's whether the customer encountered that value while it was still warm. Time leaks turn live decisions into cold ones. Cold decisions require persuasion. Persuasion creates resistance. Resistance lowers KPIs. At Tier 3, leaders don't ask, why didn't this sell? They ask, where did we let time drift? Was the inspection reviewed immediately? Was the customer guided to view the proof live? Was the decision moment protected while attention was present? If any one of those answers is no, the KPI outcome was already compromised. This is why managing time is not about being fast for the sake of speed. It's about being on time with value. On-time value feels professional. On-time value feels respectful. On-time value feels trustworthy. Late value feels like chasing, even when it's correct. So take this question seriously. Where specifically is time leaking in your chain? Not in theory, not in general, on real ROs, on real days with real customers. Because until you plug those leaks, no KPI dashboard will tell you the truth. And the next part of this chapter exists to show you how to take control of that flow, so KPIs stop being something you chase and start being something you command. At Tier 3, KPI mastery becomes the discipline of commanding flow instead of chasing outcomes. This is where most shops break, not because they lack effort or intelligence, but because they misidentify where control actually lives. The time TS Chintem exists to make that control visible and enforceable. Every repair order moves through the same sequence whether the shop acknowledges it or not. Inspection complete, advisor review, estimate built, inspection viewed, estimate viewed, decision made. Those steps happen every time. The only variable is how much time is allowed to leak between them. This is where leadership shows up. The first execution discipline is treating inspection completion as a live handoff, not a task to queue. When a technician marks an inspection complete, that moment is perishable. It has a shelf life measured in minutes, not hours. The customer is still engaged. The vehicle is still mentally open. The visit still feels active. That is the moment belief can be built without pressure. When that moment is missed, belief doesn't pause. It decays. Tier 3 advisors review inspections immediately. Not perfectly, not exhaustively, but intentionally. The goal is not to craft a flawless presentation, it is to prevent the decision window from going cold. Accuracy still matters, but accuracy does not require delay. Structure allows both. The second discipline is building and presenting while the customer is present, not after they've disengaged. Sending an inspection and hoping it gets opened is not leadership, it is abdication. Sent is not a milestone, viewed is. Advanced advisors confirm visibility. They guide the customer to open the inspection while the advisor is present, either physically or on the phone. This is not pressure. It is alignment. When both parties are looking at the same proof at the same time, misunderstanding collapses. Time to view is one of the most under-measured, over-impactful control points in the shop. The third discipline is protecting the decision moment. A decision is not a message that can be left unattended. It is a live exchange that requires clarity, pacing, and closure. When decisions are delayed, advisors are forced into follow-up mode. Follow-up mode is inherently weaker than live leadership because it starts from a position of re-engagement instead of momentum. Tier 3 advisors do not circle back when they can lead forward. This does not mean rushing. Rushing destroys trust. What it means is sequencing, concern first, safety second, 2 responsible paths, then silence. Silence is part of control. Silence allows the customer to decide without feeling chased. The fourth discipline is tightening templates to eliminate wasted time. Shops lose hours every week rebuilding estimates from scratch, retyping the same explanations, and reinventing language under pressure. That wasted time does not just slow the advisor, it widens every gap in the chain. Templates are not about shortcuts. They are about consistency. Consistency preserves timing. Timing preserves belief. The fifth discipline is measuring time explicitly instead of assuming it behaves. Tier 3 leaders track review time, build time, view confirmation time, and time to decision. These are not vanity metrics. They are the upstream controls that determine whether close rate, ARO, and hours sold move predictably. This is how KPI mastery becomes operational instead of theoretical. When time is managed deliberately, selling becomes easier without becoming aggressive. Advisors stop rushing late because they led early. Customers stop delaying because they were guided while engaged. Technicians stop waiting because decisions arrive on time. That is the difference between a shop that looks busy and a shop that actually performs. This chapter reframes KPI mastery around a single truth: time is the KPI that governs all the others. First, you stop treating KPIs as isolated numbers and start seeing them as outcomes of timing discipline. Close rate reflects whether decisions stayed warm. ARO reflects whether value was presented while attention was present. Hours sold reflect whether approvals arrived before bays went idle. Second, you enforce the time to yes chain tem as an operating standard. Inspections are reviewed immediately. Proof is viewed live. Decisions are guided while the window is open. Templates replace improvisation so speed never compromises accuracy. Third, you measure what actually matters. Not just what was sold, but when it was sold. Not just what was sent, but what was viewed. Not just how busy the shop felt, but how quickly decisions moved from inspection to approval. Tier 3 KPI mastery does not chase numbers at the end of the day. It commands the flow that creates them throughout the day. When time is controlled, pressure drops. When pressure drops, trust rises. When trust rises, KPIs stabilize without force. This is how shops stop living in reaction mode. This is how advisors stop feeling like they're always behind. This is how technicians stop waiting on decisions that should have already happened. The challenge is precise and enforceable. For your next 5 repair orders, track one thing only: the time from inspection complete to confirmed customer view. Do not argue about pricing. Do not tweak scripts. Tighten that link. When that time drops, everything else follows. Because speed with accuracy beats volume with chaos. And when you control time, you control results. That is KPI mastery at Tier 3.